All right, time now for a check of the AccuWeather forecast. Sky 6 is looking live outside right now. We're looking at a view of this city, and a lot of people are talking about some rumbling or shaking that they just felt. So we're going to turn things over to meteorologist Karen Rogers, who has some more details on that.
And we felt it here in the studio,
yes,
a little, the earth moving under our feet.
You felt it. I think while I was doing the weather, I really didn't feel it, but I know both of you did while you're sitting here in the studio, and we're getting calls from people in New Jersey. I spoke with the National Weather Service as well. It was a 4.8 magnitude earthquake that was just registered, and it was about 5 kilometers north of Lebanon, New Jersey, up in Hunterdon County, and close enough that we have all been feeling it. So this is just coming in. It just happened moments ago, but that earthquake in New Jersey just moments ago, a 4.8 magnitude, and enough that here we are in Philadelphia, throughout South Jersey, people are feeling it. So it's something we're keeping an eye on, and we're going to have more on that coming up in just a minute.
All right, 10:50, time for another check of the AccuWeather forecast. Of course, we're keeping an eye on that breaking news involving the 4.8 magnitude earthquake we felt at about 10:25 this morning.
Yeah, Karen has been on the phone for us trying to, you know, get to the bottom of it, figuring out what happened. So many people felt it.
We've been talking about it. It happened in North Jersey, felt it clearly in South Jersey, clearly here in the studio. You know, so it was something we all thought. I want to go right now to the Weather Center, and let's talk about what happened with this earthquake at about 10:23 this morning. And you can see the red dot. So this was in Hunterdon County in New Jersey. The National Weather Service calling it not that far from Lebanon, New Jersey, if you know New Jersey. So up in Hunterdon County, also near Whitehorse Station at about 10:23 this morning. So how great of a magnitude was this? So this was a 4.8 magnitude earthquake. Did you feel it? A lot of people did. It happened this morning near Lebanon, New Jersey in Hunterdon County. So what does that mean, 4.8? Well, between 4 and 4.9 is considered a light earthquake. At this point, you can feel it, and often felt, but very minor damage at this point. And I've been looking into this. There are about 500,000 of these a year that range between 4 and 4.9. So it's something fairly common compared to something you hear about that would be a major earthquake, which would be a 6 to 6.9 on the magnitude. And that's when we're talking about serious damage. Only about 100 of those happen at any one place in a year, according to the USGS. So it's considered light. It was in that 4 to 4.9 range, but it's not something we really feel very often in New Jersey. Now, North Jersey, though, if you were to get an earthquake there, it does has that Ramapo fault line running through North Jersey. So typically, if we do see an earthquake in New Jersey that small, it's more than likely starting in North Jersey because of the Ramapo fault line. So it's not terribly unusual that we had it happen. It's not something we see very often, that's for sure. But to have a 4 to 4.9, it is considered light, but there could be damage because of that. So that's something that people are calling in about. We're going to be looking into and reporting on, and make sure you let us know what you experienced when you felt it. And also, generally, these earthquakes in New Jersey are few and small. We really don't see them very much. Again, when we do, they often originate closer to that fault line in North Jersey, as in the case this one. So at 10:23 this morning, we had a 4.8 earthquake in Lebanon, New Jersey. We all kind of felt it, even here in Philadelphia, throughout South Jersey. And in researching and checking it, we do sometimes get some minor damage with an earthquake like this. And certainly it's strong enough you can feel it, but it's not strong enough to cause any major issues. There's no reason for panic at this point. It's something we're keeping a close eye on, and we want to look into a little bit more. It does happen, and oftentimes if it does, it's in North Jersey where you have that fault line.
It is 11 a.m. and we're staying with you for breaking news this morning. That nearly 4.8 magnitude earthquake hitting Hunterdon County, New Jersey this morning. Shaking felt all across the Northeast, including right here in Philadelphia and right here in our studios this morning when we were live on the air.
Yeah, we definitely felt the rumbling in here in the studio. This happened at 10:23 this morning. Meteorologist Karen Rogers has been busy working every single second, monitoring the situation, trying to get as much information as possible. Obviously, having an earthquake in this region is very unusual, so we do want to find out what's going on, and Karen is now joining us over here in the Weather Center with more on this. Karen, just so many people wondering, how did this happen? What's going on? What do we know so far?
Yeah, let's talk about exactly what happened. So where it happened first. So this earthquake about 10:25 this morning happened in Hunterdon County, and people are calling, but wait, I felt it where I am. Yes, and that's normal to feel it that far away. We felt it here in the studios. We felt it all through South Jersey. It happened in North Jersey in Hunterdon County this morning. It was a 4.77. So we've rounded up to a 4.8. What does that really mean for you? And did you feel it? We want to hear more and more what the viewers are saying. I know my phone is blowing up, probably yours as well. So it was about a 4.77 or a 4.8 at 10:23 this morning, not far from Lebanon, New Jersey, and Hunterdon County. So in that range, a 4 to 4.9 is considered light, but yet strong enough that it could cause some minor damage, certainly strong enough that you can feel it, as we all did this far out from there. It's not the first earthquake we've had in New Jersey. They've had a few big ones. New Jersey has a Ramapo fault line. Generally speaking, when we get these earthquakes in New Jersey, and it doesn't happen very often, but when we do, they tend to be in North Jersey where they're closer to that fault line where an earthquake can happen. Generally, they're few and they're small when you get earthquakes in New Jersey, such as this one, but we're getting more details. We're getting lots of reports of people saying, I felt it. It's not the first time we've had one in our area, but nonetheless, it's unusual. It doesn't happen very often. So when you think about the big earthquakes that you get, when you think about the ones that you hear about in California or ones that create major damage, we're talking a 6 to 6.9 on that scale, where ours was considerably less. This is a 4 to 4.9. That's considered light. How many does that happen? About 500,000 a year. So it's something that happens pretty frequently when you get something of that light. It may not happen in our area as often, but around the world that happens quite a bit. Whereas a major one, 6 to 6.9, that happens about 100 times a year, so considerably less. So at this point, you don't need to worry. I know it probably was alarming to see the earth shake a little bit as you're walking around, as you're driving around. It's something that doesn't happen a lot in our area. We're getting a lot of calls, and we want to hear from the viewers of what you felt, what you think about it, but it's not something to be alarmed about. We're keeping an eye to see if you get any ripple effects, any shocks afterwards, but generally that would be lesser, and this was already considered minor, but unusual that it happened. And I know Aliana and Alicia, I know you felt it yourself when you were on the news as you're walking from one part of the desk to the other. So felt throughout the region. It is considered light. This is something that happens sometimes in our area. It happened in North Jersey, if you're just tuning in Hunterdon County near Lebanon, New Jersey. But we're close enough to it that we felt it in our region. We felt it in Philadelphia, felt it in South Jersey, and we're getting more reports of people calling in and telling us what they've experienced. You could see some minor damage with this. We haven't heard about that just yet, but I know we're digging into it. We've got reporters out there checking in on everything. So we'll be having a lot more on this coming up, Aliana and Alicia, and I know Brittany Boyer's standing by as well. So we're going to be talking about this as the morning progresses and keeping everybody safe out there.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been scrolling social media just throughout the morning, and one of the viewers said that they were at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia when they felt it, and they took precautions, making sure that everybody kind of sheltered in place in a way, just until they figured it out. And then when things started to calm down, they said, okay, wow. But maybe it is something that is more frequent than we're used to, but something that still feels like a thing that we're all talking about.
It's startling when you feel that rumble. I know one person messaged me and said, I thought my dryer blew up. I mean,
Right.
You're not sure what it is, and oftentimes when we have an earthquake like this, there's aftershocks. So, I'm not sure if we're feeling those just yet, but prepare to feel a little rumble or two as well. Also, the Philadelphia International Airport did shut down for a little while, maybe about 10-15 minutes after the earthquake, but has resumed as normal.
And again, our phones have been ringing. People have been contacting us in every which way. John Paul has been monitoring some of what we're hearing from our viewers, and we said to them, hey, let us know. What are you hearing? What are you feeling?
They're letting us know. The phones have not stopped ringing. We do need to talk about a few serious things here. First things first, Philadelphia police are asking people not to call 911 unless they have an emergency. They are aware of the earthquake, so unless you have some kind of an emergency, they don't want you to call 911 to tell them about the earthquake. It's rounding up to a 4.8, as we've been telling you, and we're just outside of Lebanon in New Jersey. Now, you'd mentioned Philadelphia International Airport. We can switch over to a live picture that we have of Philadelphia International right there. So in the last 20 to 30 minutes, they ended up closing all the runways. Those are back open now, but the reason they had to close those runways is because when you have an earthquake like this, they have to check every square inch of those runways to make sure there's no damage. Just got off the phone with the airport. They tell me the runways are fine, so they went ahead and they reopened the runways about 10 minutes ago, and flights are back in operation. We know a lot of the airports in the Northeast ended up doing the exact same thing, inspecting for any kind of damage. They don't want cracked runways because that could create a lot of problems. So, you know, if you might have a flight today, you may want to check. It was only about 10 to 20 minutes they were closed, but that's enough to create some problems, especially when you think of a domino effect with the other airports. Also, New Jersey, they have the Emergency Operations Center up and running. Governor Murphy said that, you know, it was centered in New Jersey, so they may have had some bigger issues there. And I know we've been getting a lot of phone calls from people in New Jersey, but also Pennsylvania, Delaware, the entire tri-state saying that they felt this. So they do have the Emergency Ops Center open in New Jersey. We've also been on the phone today with the Penn State Brandywine campus in Media, Pennsylvania. And the reason we've been talking with them is they have a seismograph. And a seismograph is what measures the shaking of the earth. And they normally don't see that around here. So they actually sent us an image. We're trying to get that for you. It shows the actual shaking recorded right here in Pennsylvania. So they're going to be talking to us later today as well about that. Those are the latest updates that we have. Of course, a lot of people telling us they felt it all over the area. We're gathering more information here from the newsroom, and I'll be back with you as we get some more. Guys.
All right. John, thank you. You know, we talked about police and the response that they're efforting, and also telling people, please don't call 911. We all know what happened here unless it's an extreme emergency, which obviously that's what the lines are open for.
And we are hearing from police right now. We want to bring in Salisbury Police Corporal Jonathan Korteski joining us now on the phone with more on this earthquake that happened. Corporal Korteski, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for joining us today. A lot of people talking about this earthquake, feeling the ground rumble. Did you feel it? I'm sure you guys are getting a lot of calls as well.
Yes, we are. We received numerous calls in regards to houses shaking, people feeling swaying within their dwellings.
Any reports of damage from people in your community?
At this time, we have no reports of damage, but we do ask people to keep an eye out and ear out, and obviously check for odors if they have any propane tanks that are below grade that may have been damaged. Definitely check those out and make sure they're not leaking.
And Corporal Korteski, for people who aren't familiar with the Hunterdon County area, how close is the Salisbury Police Station from the epicenter of the earthquake, which is there in Lebanon? How close are you?
I believe it's about 11 to 15 miles from the Lebanon, New Jersey area.
Okay.
So this must have surprised you the way it surprised all of us this morning, with everyone saying, hey, did you feel that, right? And a lot of people wondering what this means, what it could mean for the rest of the afternoon. What are you telling people who live in your community?
At the time of the earthquake, we were actually sitting in the municipal building, the police department. We did feel the large rumble, followed by a large humming and then roaring sound. So that obviously lit up our phone lines and the 911 lines. We just asked the residents in our community to check out their property, check out their houses, make sure they don't have any damage. If they do, just to document the damage and let us know at some point in time. And to expect maybe a couple aftershocks. Hopefully they won't be as strong, but that is a strong possibility that they could occur.
And because of how unusual this event is to have an earthquake here in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, I know there is a fault line that our meteorologist Karen Rogers was talking about, but because of the unusual nature of this, what kind of police response are we seeing? Are officers kind of fanned out in the communities, checking on people, kind of making them aware of what to do if there is an aftershock or what to do if there is another earthquake?
Again, obviously you want to exit any building or dwelling that you're in to get outside just in case the structure or the earthquake becomes or is stronger than what we just had, to keep yourself safe from any structural damage.
And you did mention asking people to check their properties. What in particular do you think people should be looking for that might pose any potential risk?
Objects that may fall from the walls, furniture that's been dislodged, anything that can, that was shaking within the house during the earthquake that may have become loose and fall at a later time on its own.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are also checking the exteriors of their homes. I know some people may have some foundation issues or other issues of settling, when the house settles over time and stuff like that. So they're probably checking those areas. Anything to look out for in terms of the exterior as well?
I lost you there for a second.
I'm sorry, anything to look out for in terms of the exterior of the home, foundation issues? I mean, I know this is a 4.8 magnitude earthquake, not like a 6.1, which causes a lot more structural damage, but what can they be looking out for in the exterior?
I'm sure with the newer homes, the construction should be able to withstand that 4.8 earthquake. Some of the older homes, again, older stone farmhouses that we have in the area, they should check the foundations and exterior structural areas to make sure there's no large cracks or gaps or blocks missing or anything like that.
Corporal Korteski, in your time on the force, have you experienced something like this before? When you look to the past to say, okay, we've done this, or we talk about the fact that they aren't maybe as unusual as we think because we don't feel them all the time. But does something come to mind that you're thinking about today?
Yeah, several years ago there was another earthquake in New Jersey that we felt over here in Silbury Township in the Bucks County area. Pretty much consistent with today. Today was a lot louder and a little bit more swaying to it than the last one. But as soon as I felt it, I knew exactly what it was at that point, and that's based off of past experience. Obviously, people that have never experienced them were quite concerned and obviously shocked by it.
Yeah, and again, want to reiterate what law enforcement across the area is saying, and Corporal Jonathan Korteski, I know you've been saying this as well. If you felt the earthquake, if you're wondering what's going on, do not call police, do not flood their lines. Everybody is trying to figure everything out. Of course, we're bringing you all the coverage here. Again, Salisbury Police Corporal Jonathan Korteski, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this earthquake. We appreciate your time, and we'll check back in with you later. And
do leave the 911 lines open for true emergencies as they are intended. Meteorologist Karen Rogers has been monitoring the situation for us since we were here on the air. Karen, everyone's saying, did you feel that?
You know what? I was busy thinking about the weather and I didn't even notice it. And now I'm mad. I once drove over a bridge while feeling it when we had one of our last earthquakes. Let's go over the magnitude of an earthquake in the Richter scale. 2.5 or less is generally not felt and not really creating any damage. But we know this one today was about 4.77, so close to 4.8. And in that range, from 2.5 to 5.4, that's when you feel the earthquake, and it usually creates minor damage. So this is what we're in right now. This is what we felt in North Jersey. This is what we felt here and what happened in North Jersey. It was close to a 5, a 4.77. So in that range, you definitely feel it. The ground is shaking, but only creating minor damage usually. Now, once it gets larger, 5.5 to 6.9, that's the one that causes much more damage. And once you go beyond that, 7 to 7.9 is a major earthquake. So we're not in that range. We're in the range where, yes, we felt it, something happened, and we all know it. And we could have some minor damage. So what does that mean, and what do you really need to do now? Well, let's think about it. Check yourself and check your others. Make sure there's no injuries, nothing you need to worry about. You probably already know, but a good idea to maybe check on some older friends, make sure the kids, are okay, they didn't bump into something. Check the water, the gas, the electric lines, and they just talked about that as well, and I think that's important for any damage. And if there is any damage, you want to shut off the valves. That's the safest thing to do. In this case, we only expect minor damage with any earthquake that we have in this range, but we have to be prepared for the aftershocks. Generally, they're less than that, so we already had minor, but we could expect to feel that. Don't be shocked if you do get any aftershocks. I know our phones are all blowing up with all of our friends and relatives who have felt it and wondering what happened. So what did happen? Well, it was about 10:23 this morning. It was in North Jersey in Hunterdon County, but yet close enough we all felt it. So let's talk about what that really means. And it's interesting that it happened in Hunterdon County because the last small New Jersey earthquake was also in Hunterdon County. And that was back in 2020. I'm reading my notes I drop on the floor. That was in 2020. It's like in my house in Milford, New Jersey. But that earthquake, if you kind of remember feeling that one back in 2020 that happened in New Jersey, that was a 2.5. This one was close to a 4.8, 4.77. So it was a little bit stronger, and that's why this this one, you know, we all felt a little bit more than that other one that was in North Jersey. So it happened near Lebanon. That's in Hunterdon County, so in North Jersey. And again, within that range, it's considered pretty light and minor damage. One of the reasons that probably the last earthquake we had in New Jersey was Milford, and this one was in that same general area in Hunterdon County, is because the Ramapo fault line runs through North Jersey. And so if you were to get an earthquake, it's often up in North Jersey. But generally, those that we do get in New Jersey are few and small, as this one was as well. But we all felt it out there. We know you felt it at home. And now's the time to kind of check in on your friends, check in on each other, take a double check of the house, like we've been saying, making sure your water lines or gas lines are all okay. Our emergency workers are saying, you know, don't call 911 if you don't see any damage, if you're not hurt. You know, that's just flooding the lines. But we would only expect minor damage with this. But it's something we're going to keep an eye on, because you do expect that maybe you'll feel some aftershocks with this as well. Doesn't happen very often, and we're all going through this right now. So we're getting more information coming in. We're checking in on our viewers, and we'll be talking about more coming up in just a little bit. But Aliana and Alicia, I know it hasn't happened in a while, right? So we're all like, wow, did you feel this? And I know you felt it too, right?
Yeah. We did. We stood up to walk during a commercial break to another part of the studio for a segment, and we both were like, are we okay? What just happened?
Yeah,
you know?
I was like down here putting on my heels, and I'm like, what's that rumbling? I'm like, is somebody coming by with like a cart of some sort? Anyway.
Yes, a little sway.
Now we know what it was.
Enough to get our attention. And Karen said, check in on your loved one, check in on your friends. And our viewers have been checking in with us, letting us know what they're hearing. John Paul is out in the newsroom where you've been saying the phones have just been ringing and ringing from all of our dedicated and devoted viewers. And you're also following the very latest from what officials are telling us.
So let's talk transportation right now. So SEPTA just told us that they have no reported injuries to customers or employees because of this earthquake. There's no damage that has been reported. All services are operating as normal. However, I will say this, SEPTA's enacted a standard operating procedure for post-earthquake inspection, and that will include infrastructure like tunnels, bridges, power facilities, other equipment. Personnel have been dispatched to go and check all of that to make sure that everything is okay. I had mentioned earlier Philadelphia International ended up doing what's called a ground stop. That's when the FAA says no flights can leave, everybody's got to stay at the gate, and that was so they can inspect all the runways. They don't want any cracks in these runways. It took maybe 20 minutes or so to check all the runways. It is back open, but I'd also mentioned that there's a ripple effect because a lot of airports are doing this. This is Philadelphia International right here, back up and running. But if you are looking at like Newark International or maybe John F. Kennedy International, both of those are still in a ground stop situation. According to the FAA, they just updated this to the ground stop at Newark is expected to go until about 12:30 today. So it's got another hour and 15 minutes or so. That could really create a ripple effect there. I'm guessing that they've extended the time that that's going to take because, you know, they've got a lot of runways they have to take a look at. They've got to check all those runways because they don't want any variation on that surface. Let's see if JFK has updated. JFK has not updated recently, but at this point, they're still under a ground stop until 11:30 this morning, so another 10 or 11 minutes, and then they're planning on reopening. I'll let you know if any of that changes. Now, I'd also mentioned we have a seismograph at the Penn State Brandywine campus near Media, PA. This is what they sent me. So, well, we have to drop that banner there so you can actually see what it shows you. There we go. Okay. Very bottom of your screen there. You see that little scribble? So basically they have like a pendulum kind of thing hanging over, and it's anchored into the ground very deep so it can feel vibrations that sometimes vibrations that we can't feel. So you can see the top lines, that is that kind of the pen that they have hanging. It has nothing, it's quiet, but then there's that blip there. That is that 4.7, 4.8 earthquake right there recorded in Media, PA. This was sent to us from the Penn State Brandywine campus, folks over there. And we'll be talking with them later today about this. You know, the last time we were over there, I think it was 2022 when the Phillies were playing, and I think Bryce Harper hit a home run, and people had said that it actually shook the earth, and, you know, so we went and talked to them about that. But this actually did shake the earth, and at this point, we aren't hearing of any damage. I will reiterate, though, that Philadelphia police are asking people not to call 911 unless they have an emergency, and I'm sure other police departments would reiterate that as well. Those are the latest updates we have here from the newsroom. When I get some more, I'll tell you about it, guys.
All right, John, thank you. Yeah, some really useful information and good to know about the flights, especially if you are heading to the airport, if you're going to pick somebody up. You know what happens when any of the area airports start to experience delays. When you're looking at an hour and a half, 2 hours, that will definitely have a ripple effect throughout. So on certain flights, so definitely check ahead.
That 2-hour ground stop in New York definitely going to impact people here. We've been also talking about, you know, just when the last time we've experienced an earthquake, and Alicia, I was telling you, I lived in California for, you know, several years. I remember feeling my first earthquake in California, and it was a lot stronger than this one that we just felt here. I remember I was just getting ready to go to bed. It was like 11 p.m. I'm like literally getting ready to climb into bed, and all of a sudden I heard what sounded like a loud crash, and it sounded like so many things were crashing. I'm like, and then all of a sudden the ground started rumbling and things started swaying, and I immediately ran into my kids' rooms because I think they were really little at the time. I think my daughter was an infant, and ran into their rooms. They didn't even hear anything. They didn't wake up. They didn't move. Nothing. But it was scary because, you know, you're thinking, okay, what happened? And so then I'm running into the living room, and a couple pictures fell and things like that, but no major damage. But it's scary when you feel something like that and you don't know exactly what to do.
So you're an East Coast girl, right? From Jersey, and so we don't really get a lot of that around here. So for you, this must have been really shocking. What did your friends, neighbors, coworkers have to say? Are they just like, wow, this is kind of everyday business, or do they feel that same level of shock and kind of fear every time it happens out there?
Them, it's like business as usual in California. Yeah, and like a lot of times in driving as well, I'd feel a little something, and I'd get an alert on my phone from my kids' preschool saying like, okay, we just felt an earthquake, and this is what's happening. We're all okay. And they do earthquake drills and all that. People out there, they have earthquake insurance, which we don't have here, so hopefully a lot of people won't be dealing with those kind of issues since there's not much damage. But it's a scary thought when you're like, okay, you know, you just don't know when it's going to happen, what kind of damage is going to come from it. And a lot of people are feeling that today, saying, wow, okay, I just felt that earthquake. That was crazy.
Yeah, because here, again, while they may kind of be a little sway or a little rumble every now and then, it's not like it is living out west.
Yeah.
So
it's a scary thought, and I know Karen is keeping an eye on it. We've been talking about this, Karen, saying, hey, tell us what you felt, tell us what you hear. What are you hearing, Karen?
Well, I just had a friend who said the whole house shook in South Jersey and Gloucester County for about 10 seconds. And those are the kind of reports we're hearing from people that, yeah, the ground shook as you guys felt as you were walking around. Somehow I completely missed it. I don't know. We were both standing on the same floor. I'm not sure why I didn't feel it. But yeah, some people say the house shook for a little bit, and that's what they felt. Let's talk about the scale. So 2.5 or less, generally you don't even feel it. We have a little earthquake and hardly anybody even notices. This wasn't that. We did notice it. Once you get above 2.5 to about 5.4, that creates minor damage, and you do feel it. And this is what we've experienced today because it falls in that range. It happened in North Jersey. It was about a 4.77, so close to a 4.8. And it's in that range where we're maybe hearing about some minor damage. We're not getting reports yet, but that would be expected in something like this. And something that we all feel. You know, the earth shook, the house shook, maybe the pictures shook for a little bit. If you get higher than that, we're talking 5.5 to up to 6.9. That's when it causes much more damage, and it becomes more serious. So we're not in that range. This was minor, but notable and unusual for us to feel. When you're talking about 7.9, those are major earthquakes that very rarely happen. As far as ours, about a 4.77, 4.8, that happens about 500,000 times a year, according to the USGS. So it's something that does happen. It doesn't happen here as often, so it's different for us, but it's not something so unusual that it doesn't happen, and we don't need to worry so much. But I guess you think about, what do you do? It's been a while. We haven't really done this. For some of us, maybe you never went through that. So it's recommended that you just kind of check yourself, check on the kids, make sure everybody's okay. Just do a little check. All right, I didn't get hurt by anything. Check the water, the gas, the electric lines, see if there's any damage. If there is damage, you want to go ahead and shut off the valves. We've been hearing from our emergency workers who work so hard that they're getting flooded with calls. Hey, you don't need to call 911. They know that we had this earthquake that we felt in our region. Only call if you're in trouble and you should need help. So let them do their job and help the people who need it. But do be prepared that you could be experiencing some aftershocks. That often happens after earthquakes, and in this case, we may be experiencing that as well. So we haven't had reports of that yet, but we wouldn't be surprised to see that. Very often with the aftershocks, they are lesser in nature, so this was already minor. If something else happens, it doesn't mean, oh, this one's going to be so much worse. Just kind of hang in there. and be careful, but that's what we're expecting. So this happened at about 10:23 this morning, and you can see from our map, it happened in North Jersey, in Hunterdon County, not far from Lebanon, if you know that area. So that's according to the USGS of exactly what happened, but that far, we still felt it. We felt the shocks here in the studio, felt the shocks in South Jersey, felt them in Philadelphia. So it happened in Hunterdon County, and it is considered light. But New Jersey does have a Ramapo fault line. It's the biggest line that cuts through New Jersey, and often earthquakes form, along those fault lines. So while we don't get many earthquakes in New Jersey, if we do, they are often in North Jersey, closer to that Ramapo fault line. In fact, the last earthquake that we had in New Jersey was 2020. That point was less. So this one was about 4.8, and the last one was about 2.5. So if you kind of remember that one back in December of 2020, that was in New Jersey. And interestingly, it was also in Hunterdon County, in Milford Township. And that's because of that Ramapo fault line that runs through there. So it happened in North Jersey, but close enough. We all felt it. We felt it in South Jersey. Maybe the house shook. That's what we're experiencing. Generally, when we have earthquakes in New Jersey, and we don't have a lot of them, there are a few historic ones in New Jersey, New York, that really did cause damage, but they were kind of farther back in history. Generally speaking, we get a few of them. They're few and far in between, and they're very small earthquakes, as this one is considered. If it's in that 4 to 4.9 range, which is what we got, about a 4.77, it's considered light, creating minor damage, and that's what we generally see when we do get earthquakes in New Jersey, and that's what we felt this time. But it's interesting, Aliana, hearing your story of, you were in it for real when you were out in California. I've never been in that situation. I felt the earth shake a little bit with one of the last earthquakes we have. I was driving over the bridge at that point and thinking, what just happened? And I called the station along with everybody else. That's what everybody does. We call 6ABC, right? We know we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll figure out what it is. And that's what we're doing here for you right now. But at this point, it's not a cause for alarm, but it is cause to talk to each other and let us know on social media, what happened, what you experienced. We want to hear about that and make sure everybody out there is okay.
A lot of people definitely counting on us, and Karen, you're doing an excellent job in keeping us posted on everything that's happening with the earthquake. We'll check back in with you shortly, Mama.
She's got all the information. She's been working the phones for us all morning. And again, we were talking to people, asking them, our viewers, to send in information, share your stories, share your videos, and we're starting to get a few videos coming in. One of them taken right by our very own action cam in Trenton this morning, where you can see the shaking of the earthquake if you watch closely.
Yeah, we were at a news conference with the state attorney General this morning in Trenton. Now, we zoomed in and slowed down the video to show you. While Matthew Platkin was talking at 10:23 a.m., our photographer felt the shaking and noticed his camera moving on the tripod. And again, this was in Trenton this morning during a news conference. You can see the shake of the tripod just ever so slightly right there as we slow down this video for you. So again, we're starting to get video coming into our newsroom of people capturing the moment. There you see it there. It's starting to kind of like the camera's bouncing a little bit. Getting more video in from our newsroom of people saying, hey, I felt it, I saw it, this is what I captured. And definitely, if you captured it at home, send us the video. We want to see more of it.
A lot of our viewers are reaching out to say that their kids were concerned and worried, right? So maybe this is the first time that a young child has ever felt, the ground beneath their feet shake, or have felt any, sort of disturbance around the house, the swaying that we're talking about. This is a UN Council meeting that was happening this morning, and you can see the same. If you look at the floor and you watch everyone kind of sitting, obviously in the midst of their meeting, and then just that rumble.
Yeah. You can see people start to look around like, wait a minute, what was that? I mean, everybody just kind of wondering, okay, was that an earthquake? What happened? We want to talk more about this. We're going to talk with David Wunsch. He is the director and state geologist for the Delaware Geological Survey. We want to talk with him. He's an expert on all things earthquakes. Okay, so we're just getting in, and we're going to be talking with Dr. Abe instead of David Wunsch. So we're going to be talking with Dr. Abe. He's an engineering expert, obviously well-versed on earthquakes.
Yes, Dr. Abe, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about where you're located right now, what your experience has been so far.
Well, I did not feel the earthquake. I'm near Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. I did not feel the earthquake. But I read about it. It's a light earthquake, and we do design for earthquake in Pennsylvania and New Jersey or New York. We do design for earthquakes when we design our buildings.
And I think a lot of people right now want to know, okay, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? Do I need to check certain areas inside and outside of my home? Can you offer some insight into that, Dr. Abbey?
I think what I will be checking is if I have unreinforced masonry or CMU, that's concrete masonry units. I will be checking to see if there are any cracks, if there, any cracks as a result of the shaking that took place. But again, like I said, it's a light earthquake, and we do design our buildings and structures here for earthquake. So I wouldn't be seriously alarmed, but I will check, the gas, just make sure there's no gas leaks. Those types of things is what I will check, and then the cracks in the walls.
Dr. Abbey, I actually remember talking to you in 2020 when we had the last earthquake. Now that you're speaking, I said that I know we don't see you, but your voice is so familiar, and I remember our chat that we had. And when you talk about this kind of an occurrence and how fascinating it is for engineers, you're an expert in engineering, and you think about the fact that even though Aliana had lived in California, where they certainly build and design things for earthquakes, right, that's the case here. And yet it's still so fascinating for people at home to feel the ground move beneath their feet, to feel the home swaying. And in your line of work, just how everyone's talking about it and how fascinating it is for the conversations that you must be having around the water cooler with your colleagues today.
Yeah, again, if you live in California, it's probably, it's most likely you will feel it more often than you feel it in the East Coast. But even in the East Coast, there are situations where you can have a building designed as though it feels like you're in California, maybe because the soil is so bad that the ground is going to shake more. And so, but throughout the United States, we design buildings for earthquakes, but sometimes earthquake does not govern because it depends on the weight of the building. The heavier the building, the more likely earthquake is going to govern the design. Other than that, wind might govern in many cases, especially in the East Coast. But we do design our buildings here, our structures, our bridges. We design them as well for earthquake, for wind, and other lateral loads.
Yeah, and it's important for people to know, especially the closer you live to that fault line, the more you need to be monitoring your property and looking for any potential damage. It may not be something that's outright. Maybe there weren't pictures that were falling off the walls, but maybe there was a minor crack that you had in the foundation, and now you need to go out and give it another look. Dr. Abbey, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We'll likely check back in with you later once the story continues to develop throughout the day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
One thing we know for sure is that when something like this happens, Philadelphia is buzzing, everybody is talking, and people milling about their business, whether they're working or getting errands run around Center City, certainly have something to say about this experience this morning. 100%.
We want to get out to Becca. She's outside of City Hall right now, and I'm sure a lot of people out there on the street are asking you, hey, what happened? Becca, what's going on?
Aliana and Alicia, I got to be honest, a lot of people in Center City are confused. Some say they didn't feel it at all. Others say they were sleeping about an hour ago when it happened and it woke them up. They thought their house was coming down. Some people on the bus thought a major accident was about to happen. I have Whitney over here. You were in your office building at the time. You were sitting in your cubicle, and tell me what happened next.
It was just kind of like this very minor, but also felt it like slow kind of shaking, rolling feeling that just you didn't know what was happening. It was a little bit like I thought I was imagining things at first, honestly, and then I heard other people talking, and they felt it too. And I went down to my colleague sits on the same hallway as me, and she's looking at me like, did you just feel that?
I think everyone felt a little crazy, right? And you're up a couple floors too.
Yes.
Did you feel like the ground was like coming out from underneath you?
Yes, it was exactly. That's exactly kind of what it felt like. Like not like a normal, like, oh, a train went by and your house shook. Just like very unsettling. Like what's about to happen here? And at first, again, I thought I was like, was something, am I imagining this? And then you know, everybody else felt it, and then people started texting from other parts of the city that felt it as well.
So like all of us, your phone starts blowing up, and you find out you have family that's in the epicenter of this up in North Jersey, right?
They're not right in the epicenter, but pretty close, and they said it was pretty scary up there, but everybody's okay.
That's what matters. Everyone is okay.
Yep.
No damage too. That definitely matters.
Yes.
We haven't had an earthquake like this in Philadelphia in years.
Right. I was here for that one. I didn't feel that one. I remember I was getting lunch and I came back to work and my office building was being evacuated and everyone's like, oh my God. And I was like, I don't know what just happened. What are you talking about? But this one I definitely felt.
Well, Whitney, thank you so much for your time. We're so glad that you're okay and there was no damage anywhere. And we're hoping that your family stays okay too. No aftershocks or anything like that. Thank you for your time so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people in Center City talking about this, obviously just trying to figure out what happened, guys. Really, like I was saying, some people were dead asleep at home. They woke up to their dressers shaking around them. They thought their houses might be coming down. Other people who were on the bus at the time, talked to one guy who was at the gym. He said he didn't really know what was going on, as a lot of people did. I think it took a minute or so for everyone to look at each other and start texting each other to really realize it. Some of these large buildings around here, though, we've been looking around to make sure that there hasn't been any damage. We're not seeing any at this point. I do believe the earthquake about a decade ago, there was a little bit with these tall Center City buildings. About a 4.8 magnitude earthquake here in Center City, and people this morning, guys, walking around still shocked. Alicia and Aliana?
Yes, and I'll tell you, when something like this happens in Center City in Philadelphia, you know, everyone's out and about, milling, buzzing, talking about it, letting us know what they think. But it's interesting how some people felt it, and other people, like your friend at the gym that you were talking to, was like, what was that? Anything? No, just keep going about their business.
All right, Becca, thank you so much. Becca live out in Center City right now. And now we're going to go out to Maggie Kent. She is live in Montgomery County in Ambler with kind of what people felt out there, Maggie.
Yeah, imagine being in a chandelier warehouse, a lighting warehouse, as the shaking is going on for a few seconds. That feels like a few minutes. We're at Denny Electric Supply here in Ambler, right on Butler Pike here. And they were saying that they thought maybe there was a large truck that was driving by causing the shaking. And then they looked out the window, no truck, and that truck would have had to have been going for quite a long time. This was an earthquake here. They had mentioned some of these lighting fixtures here were shaking. Thankfully, nothing broken, nobody hurt over here. We also spoke to one of the employees here who told me that they were on the phone with a supplier out in Long Island, New York. As she was saying, something's going on over here in Ambler, the person on the phone was saying, yeah, something's going on over here in Long Island as well. I want to talk to Joan, who says that she felt what was happening. So, Joan, tell me a little bit about what it felt like, how long it felt.
It probably lasted a good 15 to 20 seconds. All the chandeliers bounced up and down, very loud, like a truck or a train that continued with, like you said, nothing outside on the street, and it was kind of scary. Everybody kind of moved to the front doors.
Just to see what was going on, making sure everything's okay.
I think it was a combination, see what was going on, hoping that the building didn't collapse maybe, which is a pretty strong thing, but we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. And have you been fielding any text messages, calls from friends, family, things like that? What are they saying?
All of the above. Did you feel it? Did I talked to my husband? I asked if anything fell off the shelf or no. So yes, people locally, people who live a little further away, everybody's talking about it.
Yes, everyone is talking, and thankfully no damage here. Nothing fell from the ceiling here. What a place to be with all this beautiful glass chandeliers. We've got all different kinds of crystal here and things like that. So quite the scene to be feeling things shaking here inside this store, Denny Electric Supply in Ambler. Thankfully no injuries reported in this area thus far. I spoke with another law enforcement officer out in Bucks County. He says that they were feeling it and also fielding some calls, people calling into our station, people calling into the local law enforcement. They want to know what's going on, but of course now we know that it was a 4.7 or 4.8 earthquake about an hour and a half from here. So that seismic activity being felt all the way out here in Ambler as well. Guys?
Maggie, all of the crystals are intact. So that's good. Yeah, of all the places to be, when an earthquake comes through, you really could feel the impact there.
Yeah, I mean, to seeing all that shaking above you must have been really frightening. I'm glad that everybody there is okay, and they seem to be smiling and kind of getting a kick out of the whole situation.
And take a breath. All the chandeliers are in place. So we're going to turn now to Trish Hageman. She's at Mainstream Horse Farm, all the way up in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, right near the epicenter of this earthquake. Trish, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Tell us what it felt like up in Hunterdon County. I mean, we feel it all the way down here in Philadelphia, areas of South Jersey in our viewing area, but you're right where it happened.
Yeah, literally, we didn't realize we were the epicenter until people started calling us and telling us. It felt like we were in the center of it. It was a huge, loud, like rumbling, kind of like maybe big trucks crashing, sort of a thing. The ground shaking. It did feel like it was a few minutes. I realized it was only 20 or 30 seconds, but yeah, it was very unusual. And we didn't, thank goodness we don't have any damage or anything. We had one picture fall off of our wall, and we're on 12 acres, in open country. So I think it's not as scary as if you're in a big, tall building, but yeah, very unexpected.
I'm curious, how did the horses respond to this? Were they spooked? Did they go off running? Like, what happened?
I know. We thought maybe they would. That was, the first thing that we kind of looked at when we went outside, and they were all fine, literally just standing there, which I was surprised at because, the horses can be a little bit high-strung, but we have 13 horses. Everybody's fine. We're pretty small staffed on Fridays usually, so not many of us here, but we have no damage to our property or anything, thank goodness.
And I'm just wondering, this is the second time we've been talking about this, right? That this is the second time in just a few years that an earthquake has kind of centered there in Hunterdon County. Is it something that you guys talk about now, maybe more than you would have in the past?
Well, we're definitely going to talk about it more now than we had. When the first one happened, we really chalked it up to just, it was very small compared to this, and just a slight rumbling, really what you would feel if a big truck goes by. And we are on a road where that happens kind of frequently. I lived in California for 9 years, though, and so I kind of recognized it as an earthquake. But I have to say, even after living in Northern California for 9 years, I don't think I've been in one that was this magnitude or kind of felt this shaky, so to speak. But yeah, we'll definitely be paying a little bit more attention to exactly what our protocol should be for that.
Yeah, and Trish, it's interesting you said that because we were talking about this earlier. I lived in Northern California for a few years as well, and I felt my first real impactful earthquake right before moving, and it definitely felt stronger than this one. So it's interesting to hear that perspective from you about this one feeling stronger than what you've felt in California. But obviously,
yeah, this one definitely felt like everything was shaking. I think more the ones I felt in California were more like a rolling. This definitely felt like everything was shaking. But yeah, like I said, I'm hoping maybe that's it. Maybe now it's gotten it out of its system and we'll be done for a while.
Have you felt any aftershocks over there so far?
No, I haven't. Actually, we're talking to each other that we should definitely prepare for that, but I have not felt any so far.
Interesting that you say you knew the feeling right away, because I think there's so many of us who don't know what this feels like, but you immediately identified it. You are 42 miles away, 42 miles north of where we are here in Philadelphia right now. And just so interesting, Trish, how we have felt it all throughout our region. And when we looked, and our meteorologist Karen Rogers had been on the phone, figuring out exactly where this was sourced. And it's so fascinating, I think, to so many people to know that you can be, an hour and a half away from us up north, and we feel it like it happened right here.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I have a daughter who lives and works in Manhattan, and so I texted her right after, and I was like, did you just feel that? And she said, yeah, we did. And so I was like, oh, my goodness, because I do think that's, that's just crazy that, I've lived outside New York City for a long time, and I don't think they've ever felt an earthquake like that. So it's, far and wide.
It is. It is. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Happy to know that the horses on the Mainstream Horse Farm handled it beautifully and calmly this morning.
And that you guys are all
Thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you, Trish. That was Trish Hageman with Mainstream Horse Farm in Hunterdon County, right at the epicenter there.
And no aftershock, she said so far, because that is something that we've been talking about. Our Brittany Boyer now joining us in the studio, checking in, and kind of you've been learning a little bit, right? Taking us to earthquake school.
I've been trying my best to get up to speed with what's been going on. I was sitting back in the weather office. There's usually this transition between my shift and Karen's shift. I was doing some forecasting, and then all of a sudden everything
just started shaking. Felt like a solid 10 to 15 seconds, and then I peeked out of the weather office and I was like, was that just me or did everybody feel it? And everybody in the newsroom was getting up and going, was that an earthquake? And yes, it was. And one of the tools that we use, Karen's been talking a lot about the Richter scale and also the fault lines in this area. All of this information comes from the USGS. That's the United States Geological Survey. And I actually have their website up here on the big board for you here. Now bear with me, some of the lighting might be a little bit tough to navigate with, but as you go on their website, you can actually look back at the number of earthquakes that have happened over the last 24 hours of 2.5 magnitude or greater. As we know, this one in Hunterdon County, New Jersey was a 4.8 magnitude earthquake, and you can actually go through the list here. That's the most recent earthquake. Of course, just a couple of days ago, you had the one that was out in Taiwan, which was a very strong earthquake. But on the list, as you're seeing some of these earthquakes, they're in California, around 3.0 magnitude, 2.6 there. It's not uncommon for earthquakes to happen throughout the United States, but typically we're hearing of them on the West Coast when you get towards, say, the San Andreas fault line. So as we look at what's on the USGS website, there's a lot of different things that you can navigate with, and one of them being the people that reported feeling this earthquake. You know, for me, I text my mom. She's up in Souderton. She had no idea what I was talking about, but here it was a hard shake that we felt right at the station. And as you look at the USGS website, you can kind of make out where exactly that epicenter is. As I mentioned, it's a little hard to see here, but you can see some of the reports as you navigate their website. People felt light shaking as far south as right around Dover, Delaware, Atlantic City, but even on the northern end of things, a lot of reports have been coming in from Long Island, New York, and you can take it even farther north here, up the thruway into parts of southern New England. Areas around Hartford, Connecticut experience the shakes from this earthquake. And this also gives you an idea. I'm not sure how well you guys can see this as we zoom in. There is that epicenter there in Hunterdon County, and it just gives you an idea roughly the geographical footprint of people that felt the earthquake right after 10:30 or 10:20 this morning. So the intensity map, all of these blue areas that you're seeing here on this website indicate people that felt light to moderate shaking. So a lot of information that we're continuing to go through here, and we're going to keep digging to see if there are any aftershocks in our area. But I'm going to turn it back to you guys. As you mentioned, you felt this here in the studio. I can only imagine what it felt like with all of this equipment around.
Yeah, and also no windows, right? Yeah. So from where you were sitting in the weather office, you were able to at least like look around, look outside, see what's going on. Here in the studio, we're kind of encapsulated.
Yeah, and then actually we're taking a look here at security footage from right outside our 6 ABC studios, capturing the moment the earthquake hit at 10:23 this morning. You see that camera just kind of bobbing back and forth, shaking a little bit when that happened this morning. Just incredible that we're talking about this today.
It's one thing to say, what did we feel, right? But when we can actually see it in video unfolding, I think that's when you really can sort of piece it all together to say what was everyone's experience today. Christy Aletto joining us in the studio now with more on what people are sharing with us. We put the call out to our viewers, share your videos, because you know some people just have at the time of the earthquake.
And you know, a lot of what we're seeing on social media is what we were seeing when you guys just pulled up the security footage. Is just a lot of people have been flooding social media. That includes Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, with videos and photos of when the tremors hit their areas. And that includes, again, people in our immediate area. A family in Northeast Philadelphia apparently was watching television, and it was their dog that felt or even sensed the earthquake before its human owners did. Take a look.
Earthquake. Oh my God, there's an earthquake. John! Here's one of
So that's how I probably would have been too, but you saw the dog like perk up first, and then you hear its owner say, oh my God, it's an earthquake, earthquake, earthquake. So the dog sitting there on the couch senses and feels the tremors, and then you can hear Action News viewer John Levy yell earthquake. The family obviously rattled by the tremors that happened this morning around 10:23. I want to go to another piece of video because this is Kristen in Sparta, New Jersey. Here we go. She had a camera rolling on her dog's playpen. You can hear the rumbling I'm going to stop for a second so you can hear it. Insane. I mean, and that's kind of what it sounded like in our newsroom when this hit. You can hear the rumbling in the background, the house shaking. You can see the gate of the dog's playpen shaking as well. She even tweeted, "This is from our dog's playpen camera. We really thought the windows would break it." I mean, just by the sound of that, I think I would have thought that my windows were going to break too. I mean, we felt this as well in the newsroom. And at first we thought it was drilling outside on City Avenue, our monument. And then we were like, oh, actually, no, this might be an earthquake. So I want to go to another photo now. This is Andrea Steck in Morrisville, Pennsylvania. She posted this photo of her cracked driveway. She says the 4.8, 4.7 magnitude earthquake cracked her driveway in multiple places. Apparently it stopped right outside of her neighbor's house. She said she couldn't believe it was happening. I mean, I couldn't believe it either. And I actually Zoomed with her before I came out here on set. And I was like, you're sure you didn't have any types of cracks on your driveway? Because, you know, a lot of driveways do. And she was like, no, hand to God, like it was fine. Wow. And this is from the earthquake that we had this morning. So I want to go to some other video too. This is in Piscataway, New Jersey. So Bilal Aman posted to X. Yep, here we go. Posted to X his doorbell cam outside of his home. You can see it rattling. It's shaking, and in the distance, there it is, the landscaper running for safety because he doesn't know what's happening. He's like, what's going on? Is the earth opening up? What's happening? Then I want to go to the second video that he posted from inside his house. So you more so hear the ground rumbling and just the shaking from both inside and also outside. Again, we all experience it, some more severely than others. But again, we felt this in the newsroom. I know you guys felt a little bit of in the studio. It's terrifying, but a lot of people really taking to social media to show like what was happening in their immediate area.
And it is interesting that a lot of the security cameras are capturing the footage because otherwise you would just have to happen to be rolling on something during this moment. So Piscataway, this video that we're looking at of the landscaper and this interior shot here, closer in North Jersey up to Hunterdon County. So perhaps
closer to the epicenter.
Yes, the epicenter of it. So they felt it, but just incredible how, you know, 42 miles away, right here in Philadelphia, we're feeling it. And right here at home, I mean, another video coming in now from Action News anchor Shari Williams recording some glasses in her cabinets that were shaking when the earthquake hit.
Yeah, you can hear the clinging of the glasses as the earth shook. Let's take a listen in. So that video, that first clip of that video, it just looped. So we just restarted that video. But what you heard, that first section, that was a good 20, 30 seconds of shaking. And I'm surprised because you're just talking about this, how it's difficult to capture it. And Shari was able to capture this video in her house.
She must have just grabbed her phone, right, saying if this is the kind of symphony of sound that really encapsulates the moment. And Christy showing us some really incredible videos. Thank you to Shari as well for sharing that with us. And of course, as you head farther north, it really gets closer to the epicenter. And Tony Yates from our sister station, WABC in New York City, has a report for us.
Yeah, you know what? All we have to do is just stand on the sidewalk and say, did you feel the earthquake? And everybody's got a story. And so you did feel the earthquake as well. What's your name?
Xavier.
Xavier, tell me where you were, what you did, what you thought it was.
I was at my dorm at Rutgers University, and I felt my room shaking crazy. I've never actually felt an earthquake before living in New Jersey, so I was very, very concerned as to what was actually happening. A lot of my friends were joking that the rapture was coming because the earthquake was so crazy. So yeah, it was definitely insane.
Did you guys leave the building?
I did not leave the building because I didn't know what was going on, so I didn't want to move from my spot. But it seems like it really affected everyone, even into like Virginia, D.C., New York. I was hearing a lot of people felt the earthquake.
Did you get any calls from friends, texts from friends?
Yeah, yes, for sure, because no one knew what was going on. So it was very insane.
Xavier, thank you so much. I appreciate it, you know, and that's what we're hearing from a lot of people because, you know, like myself, you don't know what an earthquake is. You don't know what it feels like. You think that it's just, you know, an 18-wheeler rumbling by, and then you just kind of dismiss it until everybody starts saying, hey, what was that? Hey, what was that? Again, earlier we told you that the construction crew that was working were called out of their building. They were on the 7th floor. Their foreman told them they needed to come out of the building. They stopped work completely. I guess it's some point they have to get somebody in their administration to decide whether it's not it's even safe to go back in. We did speak to some other students too who told us, one woman in particular told us that she was in the dorm here at Rutgers. She's from a country that often gets earthquakes, and so when the building started rumbling, she said the ceiling started moving, and so they all ran out of the building because they kind of knew what was going on. She kind of knew what was going on. So, a lot of students in the area feeling that earthquake as well. And we're not too far from Lebanon. I live in Lebanon. It takes me only about 15, 20 minutes to get here to New Brunswick. So I'm not surprised that people in this area really felt it.
And that's Tony Yates from our sister station at WABC in New York City. So she lives in Lebanon,
yeah.
which was the epicenter of this earthquake there on campus, where you imagine a lot of students in their dorms saying, what is happening?
Yeah, at
right?
Rutgers, New Brunswick, they're probably all like, what is going on? So yeah, interesting to see that. We're going to go back out now to meteorologist Karen Rogers. Again, Karen, every second you have been spending time trying to find out more about this.
It's so interesting, right?
Yeah.
And we're sharing everything we know about it and everything we're learning. So as you look at this little dot near Lebanon, that was the earthquake, and but it was felt through all around the region right now. Let's put this in perspective. We have a viewer that called that said, why aren't you talking about all the other earthquakes in the past 24 hours? There were 896 quakes worldwide, some of them very serious. We're talking about this one because we felt it, and we want to share what we felt, and we know you want to know what's going on, right? So let's talk about some earthquake facts. It turns out our 4.77, we've been rounding it up, 4.8, was the strongest in record in our area since 1953. Over 120,000 people have reported feeling it all over, a range from Delaware from south to up north in Connecticut and upstate New York. So a really wide range of people felt this, and we will continue to be following this. Brittany Boyer is standing by. She's going to have more and explain why it falls along the fault lines coming up in just a few minutes. Aliana and Alicia.
All right, Karen, thank you so much. And again, that is going to wrap up our coverage here on the breaking news earthquake that we've been covering now.
Action News at noon is next.
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program with John Paul and Sarah Bloomquist.
It is Friday afternoon, and the big story on Action News is breaking news. A rare earthquake struck our region, and millions of people in the northeast section of the United States have felt it this morning.
Half of them called here at the station after it happened. The U.S. Geological Survey says the 4.8 magnitude earthquake hit in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, around 10:23 this morning, located about 4 miles northeast of White House Station. A few seconds of shaking was felt all across the northeast. That includes here in Philadelphia.
Let's get right to some surveillance video. There's lots of it coming in, and we invite you to send your own. This is from outside our studios here in Winfield Heights. You can see the shaking happening just as the earthquake struck right at about 10:24 this morning.
And if you did record the moment the earthquake hit, or maybe you have video or photos of damage, because we have heard of some damage out there, you can send it to 6abc.com/share. The action cam caught the shaking of the earthquake on video. We were at a news conference. This is where the state attorney general this morning in Trenton. We zoomed in, and we're going to slow it down. It's kind of hard to catch at first, but Matthew Platkin was talking at 10:23. Our photographer started noticing the shaking, and his camera was moving on the tripod. You know, he keeps that very still. Again, this was in Trenton this morning during a news conference. And this video here shows the moment the earthquake struck in New York City. The shaking was at the United Nations Security Council meeting this morning. There it starts right there. Members of the council were in the middle of discussions, as you can see here, when that whole building started to shake. The camera changes. Look at people kind of looking around. Everybody's curious. Am I the only one feeling that? Is everybody else feeling that? But yeah, they weren't mistaken. There was an earthquake this morning.
As you know, we do here on Action News when there's a snow coverage, that sort of thing. And we have our reporters fanning out all around the region. So let's go live now to Action News reporter Maggie Kent live in Ambler with the latest on the earthquake. There, Maggie, we're finding everybody's got a story.
Everybody's got something to say, and everybody's phone has been blowing up. We're at Sweetbriar Cafe here in Ambler and talking to some of the ladies here who was just enjoying some brunch after a little bit of that excitement. Colleen here had mentioned that she felt something. So Colleen, tell me about what was going on for you this morning.
Okay, so I was getting ready to come here for breakfast, and all of a sudden I heard this noise. It sounded almost like an airplane crashing. I said my house was shaking. I couldn't figure out what was going on. It was a little scary.
Did you start to get calls and text messages from family members, friends?
I did not. I ended up leaving to come here, and I heard on the radio that it was an earthquake.
Have you experienced anything like this before?
Not like this. Maybe once there was a tornado that came through a few years ago, not too far from my house. That sounded like a freight train.
Yeah.
But it was louder.
Louder than a freight train. Wow. Colleen, thank you for sharing with us. And Judith here also says that she felt the shaking earlier this morning. Tell me a little bit about what you experienced and how long did it last?
I think it lasted 10 seconds or so, and my whole house started trembling, and I was upstairs with my dog. My dog started barking, and I'm like, is my house going to blow up?
You know, we're hearing that a lot, especially about those animals have that sixth sense to know something. Do you think that they indicated, your dog at least, that something was going on?
Well, she's a barker, but yes, she did not like it. And actually, I heard something upstairs fall. You know, and I have relatives in California, so I sort of knew that it was most likely an earthquake and not my house blowing up, but it was a little scary.
And now, you know, no injuries as far as we know thus far. Something to talk about here at brunch today.
Exactly. And I missed the last one. We had one, I don't know how many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I was in the car and I missed it. So.
Same thing happened to us today. All right, Nick and I are going to try and get up now. Yeah, Nick and I were driving over here to this region, and we have a four-wheel drive truck. Of course, you know, we're sent out on all the different kind of storm coverage stories. So I got a call from our executive producer that this was going on. We had no idea. That's the general consensus. If you were in the car, you probably missed it, but if you were at home, you definitely felt it out here in Ambler. It's where we're live. Maggie Kent, Channel 6 Action News.
Yeah,
Guys?
Maggie, it's a good point. I was in this almost 20 feet away from Matt O'Donnell. I felt it. He didn't feel it. So, yeah, I guess it depends. And you were talking to someone. You didn't feel it?
No. Well, Matt O'Donnell's off kilter.
It's very strange, yeah. Yes. I guess some of us are more sensitive to it. I don't know. But also, you were at a light shop there where you said the chandeliers were shaking, right?
I was. Yes, the chandeliers were shaking, and all the staff there were a little bit more concerned because they said that their building in Ambler is a little bit older. There were some kind of side secretive steps and hallways, and they were concerned that something was actually happening with the building at the time. Most of those employees at the light store started to make their way towards the front window because there's trucks that, you know, drive right down Butler Pike here. They thought maybe it was a truck or maybe it was a train, and then there was no sign of a truck. There was no sign of a train, so they knew that it was something else, but thankfully no damage to the store, no damage to all that crystal and glass that we saw there earlier, and no injuries reported there either.
All right, Maggie. Well, you've survived the earthquake of 2024. Grab some bacon and eggs.
did.
Enjoy some lunch, and we'll check back with you in just a little bit. We want to switch live now to our Becca Hendrickson, who's live outside of City Hall. Becca, when a very large earthquake happened back in 2011 in August, I was also, like you, quite pregnant, so I remember it very, very well. Let me just tell you, this is a moment you will remember, and I'm sure many people there in Center City are thinking about it as well at this moment.
Sarah, I was actually sitting at my desk still at the time, and I have enough movement going on in my stomach right now. I didn't really need any more. It was a little strange, and it was really strange for a lot of people out here in Center City, too. I want to talk to Tamira, my new friend over here. You were in your office. You felt this earthquake. Tell me what you experienced.
And what happened was when it started shaking, we started grabbing our stuff, and everybody said, calm down, because we thought it was a train at first. But when someone screamed out, earthquake, I said, everybody, we got to stay calm, because if we don't, then the customers are panic. But we had actually, they started evacuating the building, having us go out, and then once they knew it was under control, we were okay.
What building?
Oh, right here in City Hall. Yes.
So they evacuated where you were in City Hall?
Yes, some of our areas were evacuated because they didn't know what was going on, because the whole building started shaking.
It's an older building too, so you're gonna feel everything.
Yes, and it's heavy, but for us to feel that, it was crazy.
At what point did you realize it was an earthquake and it wasn't something else strange? I mean, this is Philadelphia. We don't get a lot of them around here.
I still didn't know what it was at the time because I kept saying earthquake. We don't really have those. Like years ago we had one, but that one right there was heavier than you really felt this one more than the one we had years ago.
You're right. That was 2011, and there was a little bit of damage from that one around the city. Now, I've also talked to city officials. Thank you so much for your time, Tamara. I'm glad that you're safe, and I'm glad that everyone's
thank you so much.
I did talk to some people in the city, specifically from City Hall. They say that they are getting inundated right now with 911 calls about the seismic activity. Police are really asking people here in Philadelphia, do not call about the seismic activity unless, of course, you have some damage. Don't just call to report it. They need to keep those lines open, unless, of course, you do have damage. At this point, the city telling me there is no known damage from this earthquake. Of course, they're continuing to monitor. People around here, it's really all they can talk about, too. So many people. I talked to one guy who was home at the time. He said he woke up to his desk shaking. He thought that his house was coming down. I talked to another woman named Whitney. She was in her office building like Tamara was. Listen to what she had to say.
Very minor, but very unsettling. Like, kind of like something went under the building and just like a little wave shaking all of a sudden.
What did you think was happening?
I thought I was like imagining things, honestly, at first. Like, did that really just happen? And then I heard other people saying, did you feel that? Did you feel that? Did you feel that? So I think at that point, everyone kind of like, was that an earthquake? And then people started texting, and then, you know, everybody else felt it in other parts of the city. So
were you like in your office at a cubicle or something like that?
Yes. So at my desk, yep, just sitting there. And it was like this like kind of minor rolling like effect all of a sudden. And yeah, it was just
weird. It's Philadelphia.
Very strange.
Yeah, she was in an office building like this, now only on the 3rd floor. You can only imagine how some of those people must have felt who were much higher up. We've been looking for some people like that to speak with. Just such a strange thing to happen here in Center City for people to experience. I want to reiterate, though, John and Sarah, one more time, do not call 911 here in Philadelphia to report the seismic activity. They know what's going on. They're monitoring it. If you do have damage, that's when you need to call. John and Sarah?
Right.
It'd be extra unnerving, too, to be in one of those high-rise buildings back and have that feeling of shaking. It was unnerving being on the ground floor here, but I can't imagine being several floors up in the air. Probably felt different.
It's strange for sure.
All right, Becca, thank you. We should probably let people know that there is the possibility of some aftershocks, which are typically less intense, but could happen still this afternoon. So there may be some more rumbling as we make our way throughout the afternoon.
Let's talk to meteorologist Brittany Boyer more on the impact here of this earthquake. You know, what I found really interesting, Brittany, the USGS has something called the modified Mercalli intensity. So it's a 4.8 where the epicenter was, but where we were, they were saying it felt more like a 3.5.
Okay, that's interesting. And here at the station, I mean, the building was shaking pretty decently, and now we're starting to get some more information from the USGS. That's the United States Geological Survey. We've been showing you where exactly this earthquake happened in Hunterdon County. You can see on our graphic, we have White House Station in New Jersey. They're now saying a more approximate location, please excuse me if I mispronounce this, Califon, New Jersey, which is also in Hunterdon County. So that's why you're seeing a couple of different bubbles here as they give the exact location of where this earthquake happened. And we've been talking to a number of people. You heard Becca talking to a few people, Maggie, all of our reporters on the ground bringing you the latest from what they're hearing. And a lot of people felt this earthquake. Just for some perspective, here in Philadelphia, from where the epicenter of this earthquake is, we're 65 miles away. Trenton, New Jersey, 40 miles away. The Lehigh Valley, 45 miles away. We have one producer who works here that has family and friends that felt this down into Wildwood and as far south as North Carolina. So the impacts from this, or at least what was felt from this, was experienced far and wide, not just here locally. If we look at the earthquake in particular here, we round it to a 4.8 magnitude. A 4.77 is the strongest on record in our area since 1953. So chances are a lot of us have not experienced an earthquake quite like this here in the mid-Atlantic region. The last earthquake that we had above a 2.5 magnitude was in Marlborough, New Jersey back in 2020. And at that point, that was a 3.1 magnitude. So not as high on the Richter scale. Before 2020, there were no 2.5 or greater magnitude earthquakes. Since 2015. So again, it's been a while since we've had an earthquake of this magnitude. So far, at least 120,000 people, I expect that number is going to be climbing, have reported feeling this. Keep in mind, those are the people that went to the USGS website and reported that they felt the shaking. And did you feel it? Look at the map here. We were able to compile this data from the USGS, and you can see where we have that star in Hunterdon County. That's where the epicenter of this earthquake was. But you can see down in Wildwood some reports, Baltimore some reports of feeling the shaking, New York City, even up into New England, parts of Connecticut, people there felt the earthquake. As if we haven't had enough going on weather-wise here this week.
We want to get to another angle here. This is some video coming into us as we've been asking our viewers to send to us. This is the earthquake as it hit in Morristown, New Jersey, which is up closer to New York, North Jersey. But you can see from this camera angle here, a lot of this type of video coming in, just a little bit of rattling there.
Yeah, and let's go to some video. This is from northern New Jersey, showing the moments the earthquake struck. You look at that. Look at everybody kind of scrambling, people getting up out of their seats, everybody looking around wondering what just happened. Notice the timestamp, top of the screen, 10:23, right when that earthquake hit, people coming out of the kitchen and looking around. This is the Boonton coffee shop in Boonton that's in Morris County. Now it looks like people just getting out of there. Another different angle of it, of the shaking, with people looking outside wondering, was that a big truck? That's kind of how it felt, kind of how it sounded. Everybody just kind of confused because, again, this doesn't usually happen in this part of the country.
Yeah, I read an interview with a woman in New York City who grew up in Italy. She said she knew instinctively to run outside, and it seems like these people are doing too, getting out of that structure, just sort of their instinct kicking in. We do have some video as well from the Dan Patrick Show. This shows the moment the earthquake shook their studios there in Milford, Connecticut. And again, that instinctive reaction to sort of run, not really knowing what is happening. But as in our studio here, and our crew who was inside our studio at the moment, you can see all the lights and camera equipment. It all shook as well. Everybody's sort of trying to figure out what is going on.
Yeah, it's unnerving too with those big heavy lights overhead too. You don't want to be in that studio, and that's what they did. They got on out of there. Let's go over to Action News reporter Annie McCormick near the epicenter of the earthquake. She's already in White House Station at a fire department there in Hunterdon County, New Jersey. What was it like there, Annie?
Yeah, well, we're at the White House Fire Company right now. We're about 5 miles from the epicenter. This is in Hunterdon County, so I am actually not that familiar with this area, but the people behind me are definitely familiar with this area. I have the chief and the president from the fire company here, and you were telling me just a short time ago, Chief, that it was only about a half mile, the epicenter only a half mile from your home. Tell me what you remember. What was it like?
I was sitting at a dining room table and I thought someone backed into our house. It just started to shake. My wife come running, yelling like, what the devil is that? And I said, I don't know, but it went on for a good 30 plus seconds, just rumbling and shaking. And the water in our built-in pool, underground pool, was just going back and forth like someone was out there surfing. It was just something I'd never experienced. Back in, I think, 2010 or 2011, we felt rumble effects from Virginia up here. But it was just like a shake, but this here was unbelievable.
And I'm also with the president, too, Phil Colasurdo here. And so tell me, what types of calls have you been receiving, including the one to the horse farm? And I believe we had the owner of the horse farm actually call into our station, too.
We've been going to suspected gas leaks, people thinking that they smell gas, and alarm activations also.
So burglar alarms is something that I guess they can be easily triggered.
That's what the police are going to, yeah.
Okay. And so what other types of effects do people feel from this? Well,
I was at one of our local nurseries with my daughter, and all of a sudden we heard 2 loud bangs, and actually the greenhouses were shaking and the floor was shaking.
Okay, and we have chopper video right now that's playing. It's over White House Station and the area as well. And so the calls that I know that some of you responded to, specifically to the horse farm, what were they in relation to?
Well, one of the calls we went to, lady was not at home, but when she got home, her gas-fired stove was on. So it looks like a wood stove, and it was just on, which shouldn't have happened. So I tried to convince her it was a ghost in the house, and he was cold.
Plausible.
Yes, but it was just out of the ordinary. We did thoroughly searched the residence, and nothing was found gas-wise. Made sure the fireplace was working, and it was good. And we had a second call down here in town. They were smelling odors of gas in their warehouse, their shop down here, but nothing was found there.
Okay, and no widespread damage anywhere, no actual, is there any damage you have visuals of?
Up on Halls Mill Road, near here, Halls Mill and Taylor's Mill, there's an old mill, stone mill, partially collapsed, and there was a lot of rock on the road that our Department of Public Works had to go up with a machine and get the material off of the road.
And that was from this earthquake?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and so it happened around 10:23, and I'll actually tell you guys too, I don't know if you already spoke about this, John and Sarah, but we were actually at a press conference in Trenton at the Justice Center there, and it's a pretty high building. It's right along Route 29, and so while we were sitting there at 10:23, I looked around because I noticed it. It felt a shaking, but a lot of us thought that it was just a tractor trailer or traffic that was driving by, but it was enough that we felt it at least for a couple of seconds when it came through again at 10:23. So also, what are things that you think people that maybe aren't at their houses, that aren't here, that they should look for when they return home? Should there be anything that they, like you mentioned the gas stove, just turning on, is that things that they should check?
They should do a thorough search of their house and check for anything safety-wise, especially if there's any lanterns or lights on that may come on a timer, stuff like that. Check your stoves, make sure the pilots are still lit, and so forth. Just do a safety inspection of the home as you come in, and don't hesitate to call 911 no matter what you see.
Okay, and then I don't know too, animals are so sensitive, and they really are so in tune to what's really going on, especially with nature. And so I don't know if any of these horse farms had issues with any like horses getting spooked or dogs, or do you have any pets that had reacted at all at home or that you heard about?
R2 was on their couch looking out the window, and they kind of just like took off. They knew to go. I don't get it. They knew something was coming.
They can always tell, they have that sense, that extra sense. So moving forward today, everybody, it looks like the whole gang is here today, ready to go. Tell us who's here.
Our local fire official, he is here, Matt Huffman. He's also a chief of our sister company. He went through an experience inside a warehouse up here if you wanted to talk.
Oh, yeah, come up here. We want to hear. So Fire Inspector Huffman, so tell me a little bit about what you experienced.
I was doing a local inspection here in town, and I was with the owner of the building, and he kind of looks at me and goes, "Did you feel that?" And without any hesitation, I was like, "Yeah." What was that? And we were concerned with what happened outside the building. We ran around, checked everything, and it luckily, wasn't anything at the facility itself. Everything was safe. We checked all the safety features of the building, and everything was good to go as far as that goes. But yeah, we were concerned that it happened at that facility just because nobody knew what was going on at the time. So
describe to us what type of facility is it, and what exactly was the damage that it sustained
there was no damage.
Okay.
It is a petroleum dispensary facility in town. So we were doing our annual inspection there. It's just a routine. Going through the facility, just making sure all the safety features are on check, and then as we were going through, we were checked everything, made sure all the piping was good, and all the safety features were in place. Nothing that was even triggered, and they went about their business like normal. It was just a quick turn.
You were inside watching the shelving units or something?
Yeah, we were inside one of the storage warehouses, and it just started moving back and forth. So we were concerned of what was going on the outside, but luckily it had nothing to do with that facility itself. But it was good that everything was in place and went through. It was just like a normal inspection, just had a little shake in the middle of it.
And I don't know when you realized what it was, that it was actually an earthquake. Obviously you're privy to more emergency information that you probably get quickly. And in the press conference that I was in, it was probably a couple minutes after the press conference was over that one of the members of state police was there, and I heard him say earthquake, and I said, was that what it was? And he said, yeah, it was an earthquake. I didn't get the emergency alert on my phone until about an hour later. So what types of emergency alerts did you all receive, and was anything, at what time, like how soon after?
The most recent one that I got was the Spruce Run Reservoir, and I think you confirmed that, Matt, was on a tsunami alert.
Tsunami or high water warning.
Oh, a tsunami alert.
Yeah, so we got them instantly, and then there's these chat groups that the emergency service agencies are on, that it was just going off in seconds and seconds. I mean, people were commenting from Connecticut all the way out to Pennsylvania, just they felt it and it was going on. And I think they pinned us at a 4.8 on the Richter scale here. So it was pretty, I don't want to see that again or experience that again.
And what's the communication that you're having with the other fire departments? Because if the epicenter is about 5 miles away, I assume that there's probably other fire companies that you also work with closely in this area. What are they saying?
They're going out to similar calls that we've been responding to.
Burglar alarms, things of that nature?
Alarm activations, smells of gas.
Okay. And when was the last time that you all can remember in New Jersey?
I've never experienced it, no.
I have never experienced one either.
2010 or 2011, when we had that from Virginia, came up, and it was like a rumble on the ground. That's the last, but not like this, not at all. It just, and then we had my wife experience. She said it's coming back around. It was like the side effect of it. It just came back again, and the rumbling was going. It was like the shock effect, rather. It was like, all right, time to get out of the house. I actually thought my 2 boys backed their vehicle into the house as they were leaving. It was unreal.
Is your wife here?
Yes, she's right.
Oh, wait. Oh, come over here. Because I kind of want to get a better idea of
the one running down the hallway. What the?
So tell me, like, the thing that really blew my mind that the chief was telling me was about your pool. Explain to me what that was like.
So like after it was over and we came out and I was just like trying to recover, I looked out and the pool water was still doing the waves in the pool. And I was like, look at that, it's still moving. It was weird.
And did you feel at all unstable, unsafe at any point?
Well, when it was happening, I was like, oh my God, is the house going to like, what's going on? Because I thought it was my son. And it was like, whoa. And then it just went on too long. And I said to him after it like stopped, I'm like, that was an earthquake. That was a lot for it to happen. And so yeah, it was very strange.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I know you guys have such a busy job to do, and thank you for everything you do for the community too. So we're definitely going to come back to you in a little bit. Again, we're 5 miles from the epicenter of where this earthquake did occur here at the White House Fire Station. They are all working so hard. They're fielding those phone calls from people. And again, the best advice that we're hearing from the chief is if you weren't home when you arrive home, definitely check, make sure that none of your gas stoves are on or anything of that nature. If you do have concerns, you can call 911 too. So, hold on one second.
Deputy mayor is here.
Oh, the deputy mayor from town. Ryan, give me one more minute for the deputy mayor.
How's it going?
Good. So, what are you feeling here? What are you hearing from your constituents?
You know, I think there's just a lot of concern for everybody. It's a small town. The phone's been blowing up all day. It's almost dead. So, just went out to check on some places. We have some museums in town. We've got a grist mill that sustained some damage. Just going to check on things. But ultimately, you know, in the past 2 hours or so, we've really seen a small town come together and care about each other. So it's been pretty awesome to see that.
I love that. I love hearing that. And so as far as damage, just overall, it looks so far like nothing really severe?
Nothing really severe, and the chief would know better than I would at this point, but we've been in contact with public safety, fire, EMS, DPW. Really, everybody's all hands on deck, just making sure that everyththing's square, everybody's safe, and so far, so good.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ryan, for that extra time, our producer. We're live in White House Station in Hunterdon County. Annie McCormick, Channel 6 Action News.
Annie, you sure the school custodian or anybody else is available?
I know.
Got everybody there.
Come on down. Everybody in White House Station, we're here.
Oh. No, great coverage.
Yeah, it's a good perspective, too, from the fire department. Let's head over now to Christy Aletto, who's live in the studio with some more video of the moment the earthquake struck. And these are coming in from our viewers.
That's right. I mean, people have been flooding social media. So we're talking about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok with videos and photos of when the tremors hit their area. That includes people in our area as well. I'm going to start with this family in Northeast Philadelphia. They were watching television, and I know Annie mentioned that animals are more sensitive than humans are initially to when stuff like this happens. Their dog felt the tremors and sensed them before its human owners.
Earthquake. Oh my God, there's an earthquake. John!
saw the dog actually perk up before any of the real tremors started to kick in on the couch. And then you can hear Action News viewer John Levy yell earthquake. His wife starts yelling, John, John. They run out. Family obviously rattled by those tremors that happened around 10:23 this morning. I also want to head over to Kristen in Sparta, New Jersey. She had her camera rolling on her dog's playpen, and you can actually hear the rumbling. Let's stop right here. Yeah, you can hear the rumbling in the background. The house is shaking. She actually tweeted on X, this is from our dog's playpen camera. We really thought the windows were going to break. And to be honest, we felt those tremors in the newsroom. And initially, we thought it was somebody doing work outside on Monument Avenue. So I understand why she thought that her windows were actually going to break out. Let's go to this other video from, this is photos actually, from Andrea Steck in Morrisville, Pennsylvania. She posted this photo of her cracked driveway. She says that 4.8 magnitude quake cracked her driveway in multiple places, but stopped right at her neighbor's house. She said she couldn't believe it was happening.
So that wasn't there before? No, the big line and then this one and this one are new. Yeah, it was pretty scary. My heart is like still racing. And, 10 minutes away, someone I know didn't feel it. And then 15 minutes the other way, they felt it. So it's just very odd and kind of scary because I didn't even know we got earthquakes around here.
Yeah, apparently we do today. And then in Piscataway, New Jersey, Bilal Aman posted to X doorbell cam video outside of his house. So you can hear again the doorbell cam picking up the rattling, the rumbling. The camera actually starts shaking. Then you see the landscaper at one point. There he is, running for safety because he doesn't know what's happening. He then posted a second video from inside his home. So no shaking here, but again, you can hear the ground rumbling and whatever else is rattling in inside of his house. Pretty terrifying. I mean, again, we were all feeling this morning in the newsroom. We felt it. We didn't know what it was. Again, we thought it was construction crews on Monument Avenue, all to find out that it actually was an earthquake. Guys.
Yeah, we did. A lot of us felt it. Actually, I thought they were bringing a catered lunch in. I thought maybe they were wheeling something.
No, you were
so I was like, wait a minute.
You were hoping that. Maybe they still will.
Let's find out.
Yeah. Our continuing coverage of this morning's earthquake continues when Action News comes right back. It is now 12:30 and we continue to follow our breaking news. A rare earthquake struck our region and millions of people in the Northeast felt it this morning.
Yeah, a lot of people feeling this, a lot of people calling in. U.S. Geological Survey says the 4.8 magnitude earthquake hit in Hunterdon County, New Jersey around 10:23 this morning, located about 4 miles northeast of White House Station. A few seconds of shaking was felt all across the Northeast, includes, of course, here in Philadelphia.
This is surveillance video from right outside of our studios here in Winfield Heights. You can see the shaking happened, a little bit subtle here, but notice it does shake. The building is shaking on our cameras when that earthquake struck this morning.
And if you recorded video of the moment the earthquake hit, maybe you have video or photos of some damage, send them to us, 6abc.com/share. And the action cam caught the shaking of the earthquake here in video that you're looking at your screen. This is a news conference with the state attorney general this morning in Trenton, and we zoomed in. We're going to slow down the video just for a moment here to show you while Matthew Platkin was talking at 10:23 a.m. our photographer felt the shaking. Notice his camera moving on the tripod that was locked down. Again, that was in Trenton this morning during a news conference. And this video here shows the moment the earthquake struck. This is in New York City. The shaking here at the United Nations Security Council meeting. As this woman is talking right now, members of council in the middle of these discussions. We're going to switch a camera angle here, and you'll notice people start to look around as the camera starts to shake a little bit. People curious what's going on. They start looking at each other because, yeah, they felt the earthquake there as well.
From New York to Philadelphia, Boston, places in between, everybody felt it. And that includes in Ambler, and that's where we find Action News reporter Maggie Kent live with the latest on what people are telling you about what they experienced this morning.
I'll see you. Thank you. Yeah, so we're in Costa Deli now in Ambler. We've just kind of been making our way down the main street. We want to talk to David. His family's been here for, what, 70? 75 years. Year, yeah. Okay, so you mentioned you felt a little something.
Yeah, I felt a little something, nothing really significant. But then I was talking to, my son's in New York City in Manhattan, and he said he really felt it bad. He gave me a call, and my daughter is in Center City, in Old City, and she said she really shook. She's like one of those brick buildings. She's on the 3rd floor, and she said, boy, she didn't know what was going on. She thought like the hot water heater was going to blow up or something.
Yeah, and we've been talking to your customers who have their own stories as well. Have people been coming in here?
Yeah, people been coming in and saying the same kind of situation, like maybe not right here, but like down the road, or there was another. I think he just walked out. He was talking about. He said he really felt it this morning, and he's actually. I'm surprised because I didn't feel it that much over here, but he's just maybe a mile down the road, and he really felt it there.
Yeah, everybody having their own unique experiences. As we talk to people in Ambler here, it kind of depends on where you were, what you were doing at the time. If you were in the vehicle, less likely that you felt anything, but if you were at home, more likely you felt some of that rumbling. As he mentioned, one of the customers here, Gary, tells me that there used to be an air show that would fly over a small air base in the area, and the Blue Angels, they would come down and fly over his house. That's what he thought was happening at the time. Of course, no air show in the area, no freight train, as some people describe it, no large trucks going by. This was an earthquake, 4.7 magnitude, and it could be felt here out in Ambler at these small stores along the main street here, but also at homes as well. We're live in Ambler. Maggie Kent, Channel 6 Action News. Guys?
Maggie, you've been everywhere. You've been talking to everyone about what they have experienced there, and it sounds like
I get around, I try and do my best.
You're doing great. All right, Maggie, thank you. We do want to take a live picture right now, Philadelphia International Airport.
Yeah, there have been some issues at the airport along the East Coast, impacted in the areas impacted by this earthquake. They wanted to check things out, I believe, on some of the tarmacs and make sure there wasn't any damage. Things are moving again here at Philadelphia International Airport along with JFK, but still some issues elsewhere, John.
Yeah, so Newark International, they had the longest ground stop. Now, the FAA will issue what's called a ground stop. That means no flights can leave. And the reason they did that is because they wanted to check every square inch of the runway. And it took some extra time, it sounds like, in Newark. JFK opened around 11:30. Philadelphia International was only closed for maybe 20 minutes or so. But now Newark is saying they have a ground delay, averaging 77 minutes. That's because of airport volume. So a lot of flights, go in and out of that airport. And when they had to do that ground stop for so long, it lifted about 12:30, maybe 12:20. They've got to try to get things back up to speed. So while Philly is open, if you might be having a connecting flight in Newark, that's going to be a problem. So you may want to call ahead.
Yeah, these things always take a long time to sort out after they happen. Let's go to Philadelphia City Hall. Our Becca Hendrickson has been there throughout the morning, checking in with people, many of whom were left some of those buildings as they felt this earthquake happen this morning.
Sarah, it really just depends where people were, whether they felt the earthquake or not. I can tell you a lot of folks that I talked to over here who were in City Hall, they did in fact feel that earthquake. Some of them said that they evacuated at the time. They didn't really know what was going on. I think a lot of people had that similar experience where you start to feel the shaking. You're not really sure what it is. Is it a truck going by? And then everyone kind of realized the same thing. Phones start blowing up. Some of the employees, again, telling me they got evacuated from City Hall. As for officials in City Hall, they say that they're aware of what happened. They're monitoring it. As far as they know, there's no damage throughout the city, but they do have a message. A lot of people calling 911 right now just to report the seismic activity. The city is respectfully asking people not to do that, saying that police, 911 operators, they're aware that this earthquake happened. They need those phone lines cleared for emergency, so don't call just to report the activity. Of course, if your home does have damage, that's when you need to call. A lot of people I talked to today were either home or at work this morning when that earthquake happened. One gentleman I talked to said he was still sleeping. It woke him up. His whole bedroom started shaking. He thought his house might be coming down. Of course, that wasn't the case. Other people I talked to in their offices at the time, some people thought some of these office buildings might have been collapsing. Hear from Whitney. She was on the 3rd floor of one of these Center City high-rises.
Very minor, but very unsettling. Kind of like something went under the building and just like a little wave shaking all of a sudden.
What did you think was happening?
I thought I was like imagining things, honestly, at first. Like, did that really just happen? And then I heard other people saying, did you feel that? Did you feel that? Did you feel that? So I think at that point, everyone kind of like, was that an earthquake? And then people started texting, and then, you know, everybody else felt it in other parts of the city. So
were you like in your office at a cubicle or something like that?
Yes. So at my desk, yep, sitting there. And it was like this like kind of minor rolling like effect all of a sudden. And yeah, it was just
weird. It's
very strange.
Very strange indeed. And John and Sarah, you can imagine kind of how scary it would be to be in one of these high rises when an earthquake like this happens. Again, the good news, no injuries at this point, no damage known at this point for Whitney. She says she actually has family who live up near the epicenter of the earthquake. She was able to check in with them. They're doing okay too. But again, I just want to spread that message one more time. Do not call 911 at this point, just to report that seismic activity. Call if you have damage. John and Sarah?
And it's interesting about not calling police unless there's an emergency. Just to give some perspective there, we have 48 phone lines here at the Channel 6 studios. All 48 were lit up this morning, and people were getting a busy signal. That's how many people were calling us. You can imagine how many people were calling the police, so only if it's an emergency.
Right, and the experts say that the aftershocks are quite common, and people should be prepared for that. Usually weaker than what we experienced this morning, but still could be some more rumbles as we head through the afternoon. And again, the authorities are aware, so no need to call 911.
Let's talk to meteorologist Brittany Boyer more on the impact that was felt all across the area, and I think there was a 2.0 aftershock.
Yeah, that is coming up on the list, and what a morning it has been here, not just here in the Delaware and Lehigh Valleys, but for many people across the Northeast. We've had reports of this earthquake being felt as far as Maine and as far south as places like North Carolina. That 4.8 magnitude earthquake, of course, as we know at this point, in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, and I've been looking at the USGS website for some additional information, and just to put things into perspective, yes, we get earthquakes here on the East Coast, but you can actually navigate through their website and look at the earthquakes over the last 3 weeks here in the Northeast. And there you can see on the top of the report list, as John mentioned, a 2.0 magnitude aftershock that was around the Bedminster area of New Jersey today. And then there is our most recent earthquake that we all felt this morning around 10:23. But then a couple of other reports of minor earthquakes within the last 3 weeks. All of those were across the state of Connecticut. So let's dig a little bit more into the information here that comes to us from the USGS. And we talked a little bit about the intensity of earthquakes. This is measured on the Richter scale. A 2.5 or less, a lot of people don't feel them. And there were 2.5 or less ones on that list that I just showed you. 2.5 to 5.4, minor damage. It's felt. That's what all of us felt today. But then it gets more damage and more destructive as you get higher on the Richter scale, up to 8.0 magnitude. Thankfully, we weren't dealing with that today here, but we could still experience some of those aftershocks. So if you look at the USGS website, you can actually break down the probability of experiencing an aftershock after having an earthquake of 4.0 magnitude or greater. So within a 1-day period, we have about a 9% chance of experiencing an aftershock. Within a week, it goes up to 16%. Up to 1 month from now, there's a 21% likelihood that we could experience an aftershock, and within 1 year, it goes up to 31%. So today, a lot of areas far and wide, again, not just here in the Delaware and Lehigh Valleys, feeling the shaking earlier this morning. And it's been a while since we had an earthquake of this intensity. Actually, the strongest on a record for our area since the 1950s. The last time we had an earthquake above 2.5 magnitude was back in 2020, also in New Jersey, guys. So we're going to continue to hear from our reporters on the ground. And of course, as they've been reporting so far, no injuries from this morning's earthquake.
Yeah, that's the good news. But we've been hearing from the experts too, the authorities. People should check their properties, take a look around just to be sure.
Yeah. All right, Brittany, thank you. We'll be right back.
3, 2. Well, we know the epicenter of the earthquake we experienced this morning was right in Hunterdon County, New Jersey.
And that is where we have Annie McCormick. She's been talking to pretty much everyone there in the small town of White House Station at the fire department. Bring us up to speed, Annie.
Yeah, well, now actually we have the mayor of Reddington Township, which is where White House Station is located. This is Adam Mueller, and he's talking to us about some of the damage that you have so far. So tell me, what did you feel, and what are you guys seeing?
Sure. So I was sitting at home working, and for about 15-30 seconds, plus or minus, massive shaking in the house, dogs going crazy. Nothing fell off the wall, but I immediately got on the phone with our township employees, township staff, directed them to start conducting surveys throughout town of our critical infrastructure, roads, culverts, buildings, etc. The only reported damage so far, luckily, unfortunately, is our historic grist mill. It was constructed in 1760, pre-revolution, and the top half of the grist mill collapsed and fell into the road. It's very unfortunate because we've been pursuing grants to clean up that property in anticipation of the 250-year celebration of our country. But now we're going to have to shift gears to reconstruction efforts. So it's very unfortunate, but other than that, we made it through pretty unscathed, and big thanks to our OEM, first responders, police department. They've been a big help. Our county officials have been tremendous support, and Congressman Kane's office has reached out offering any help that we need. So very grateful for all the support Reddington's receiving.
Okay, and the types of calls that they're talking about, we're talking to the chief and to EMS, or gas leaks that they're potential. In fact, the entire crew that was out here with us earlier are now actually on a call. They're headed to a possible gas leak that they're going to check out in a different area. So that's the type of things people are seeing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Our first responders, like you said, they just got dispatched to a potential gas leak. Chief Apgar's done a fantastic job. I anticipate they're going to be busy the rest of the day responding to similar calls.
Great, Mayor. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I also want to bring in my Uncle Tommy. This is Tom Morley.
Annie, good to see you.
So, Uncle Tommy, what did you see and what did you feel up in Chester? About how far?
Okay, about 10 miles away from here. I was inside. I heard a garbage truck, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I didn't take the recycling out." So, went to the garage, took the recycling. I'm in the driveway, and all of a sudden, it sounded like a bomber went over, but there was no bomber. It sounded like something collapsed. I could feel a concussion on the chest, and I figured it's got to be an earthquake, but I've never felt one before. Couldn't imagine what else it was. No buildings around had fallen or collapsed. Neighbor came running out saying, "What was that? What was that?" And I said, "I don't know. What do you think?" And he says, "I had a couple of pictures fall off the wall." And then a second neighbor came running out and going, "There's a earthquake. It's reported Hoboken in New York City," and
where you're closer to.
Yeah.
Where you're closer to, and you've lived up in this area. Also, volunteer firefighter too. So
right.
You've seen a lot of things. So, and as for this area too, as of this point, like we said, the fire crew just went out to another call as well. But one thing that's really nice as well that the deputy mayor was saying earlier is how everybody in the community here is coming together, checking on everyone to make sure that they're okay. And again, additionally, if you've been away from home and you're just getting there now, definitely check gas stoves, things of that nature. That's the advice that we're getting from the EMS and also from the fire crews out here. So that's the latest here in Reddington Township at White House Station. Annie McCormick, Channel 6 Action News.
No other relatives there, Annie? Nobody else?
No, there's more coming. I'll be honest.
All right.
Well, we've got a lot more to talk about then,
huh? We'll check back, Annie. Thank you. Well, I think now we're going to go back to 6th grade science class.
That's right. Yeah, Karen Rogers is going to bring us up to speed and how all this happened, where these fault lines are.
I don't have family to bring in, so I've got to talk about this instead. That's right. We've been talking a lot about the Ramapo fault line. So the last time we had an earthquake in New Jersey was in 2020. It was smaller than this one. It was at 2.5, but we've been mentioning when we get them. It's not very often, but when we do, it is typically in North Jersey, where this one was centered as well. And that's in part because it's right across that Ramapo fault line. It runs about 185 miles, so just under 200 miles from southeastern New York right into eastern Pennsylvania. So not just cutting through New Jersey here, but really separating here the Piedmont from the highlands. And often those earthquakes form right along that fault line. So let's talk about that. They occur along the fault lines, and those are kind of cracks in the Earth's crust where the tectonic plates meet. And this is what happens with an earthquake. Those tectonic plates kind of grind together. The pressure breaks, and with that it causes these seismic waves. And that's what makes the ground shake. So that's what we all experience today. And you might remember we did experience something like this not that long ago, but it wasn't actually in our area. It was in Virginia. But we felt it because it was a little larger. Do you remember that one in August 2011? That was a 5.8. So even though it was in Virginia and not centered in our region, how does it measure up? And we're not that far off. It was a 4.8. The scale is logarithmic. So in 2011, it kind of felt 10 times bigger, and it released 30 times more energy than that which we saw today. So you probably remember that one in 2011. But again, that one wasn't in our area. This one was, and it was the largest one we've had here, 4.77. We've been kind of rounding it up to 4.8, the strongest on record in our area since 1953. So it's been a while. The last earthquake was 2.5. That was in Marlborough, New Jersey in 2020. That was a 3.1. But also that was up in North Jersey. Before 2020, there were no 2.5 or greater quakes since 2015, and over 120,000 people reported feeling it. And that's reported it from the USGS. I mean, if you just talk to Annie's family, which we've been interviewing, you know, all of them felt it as well, but they probably called us, and as many of you did when you felt it. So we all felt it. We're all dealing with that. And when you think about safe places, I mean, we're not expecting any more problems like this. And this one was pretty minor as far as the big picture, but as far as safe places as you're heading out, Sarah and John, you want to kind of think if something like this were to happen again, sometimes it runs through your mind, maybe go into a room that doesn't have windows is a good place to be, something like a bathroom or in a doorway. If you could maybe get under a table to protect yourself from anything shaking. And if you're not in a safe structure, yeah, tend to see people going outside, but always check on, you know, yourself and your friends out there today. But these are the earthquake facts that we have. The tectonic plate shifted a little bit, and we're all talking about it still, aren't we?
Yeah, that one in 2011, Karen, caused almost $300 million in damage. Remember some of the monuments in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
So we really have escaped any of that damage this
We really
this go
did.
around.
Yeah, that's right. So that was a 5.8. This was a little lesser, but we felt that. It was in Virginia, but yeah, we had some damage even in Philadelphia with that one.
That's true.
All right.
Glad not this time.
Yeah, me too.
Karen, thank you. All right, let's talk to Christy Leno. She has been getting videos that have been sent in from our viewers and the reaction to the earthquake itself.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as we've been mentioning all morning long, the earthquake originated in North Jersey. I want to start with some reaction from Rutgers University because our sister station, WABC, was live on the air moments after it happened. Reporter Tony Yates caught up with some students in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
I was basically just sitting on my chair and the ceiling started like rumbling, and it was really scary because the whole room felt like shaking, and me and my roommates just kind of like ran out of the building along with like other students in the building as well. Yeah, it felt, for a few moments it felt that bad. Yeah, we did. It started off pretty strong. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had you ever experienced anything like that before?
I have.
Oh, tell me.
I have. Back in my home country, I have experienced earthquakes before. This was probably the only one that I've been to close proximity before.
I was at my dorm at Rutgers University, and I felt my room shaking crazy. I've never actually felt an earthquake before living in New Jersey, so I was very, very concerned as to what was actually happening. A lot of my friends were joking that the rapture was coming because the earthquake was so crazy. So yeah, it was definitely insane.
Did you guys leave the building?
I did not leave the building because I didn't know what was going on, so I didn't want to move from my spot. But it seems like it really affected everyone, even into like Virginia, D.C., New York. I was hearing a lot of people felt the earthquake.
Did you get any calls from friends, texts from friends?
Yes, for sure, because no one knew what was going on.
Yeah, no one knew what was going on. Well, this is video that is going viral now online. Jared shared this video with me. He was recording himself playing the guitar in his home in New Jersey when the tremors began. He caught the earthquake while practicing inside his home in Bridgewater. He posted to X, "I can't believe I got it on camera." Yeah, I almost love how he kind of immediately, you'll watch, he like perks up and then he grabs the guitar because you have to protect the guitar. But I mean, it sounded just like you said, it sounded like a thunderstorm at first. And then he realizes that it's actually something bigger than that. Fortunately, he was okay. He did share with me that, again, he was practicing and then felt those tremors. And our friends over at the Preston and Steve show at WMMR were live on the air this morning when the earthquake hit as well. They recently posted this video of their reactions on their X page.
do
Hey, real quick, are we having an earthquake?
Yeah, did you feel the room
Yeah,
shake?
it is moving.
I'm serious.
No, you're right. I feel my butt kind of moving a little bit.
Yeah.
Your butt's moving all the time, man.
Look at my microphone.
Well, the gang went on to speculate that it could have been from construction in the area before the calls and texts started flowing in. And if you look closely at the beginning of the clip, you can see their microphones were shaking as they were talking. I mean, they're not too far from us as well, because we thought that there was, we thought that what we felt was actually the construction, and then we learned that it was the earthquake. So
yeah.
We've all been there.
Well, this one was not on anybody's bingo card.
No, it was not. What a strange occurrence to have this morning.
It is. But it's a shared experience, and everybody sharing their videos with us. And what I find so really interesting is the reaction. Everybody seems to have a very similar human reaction of, what is this? Trying to figure it out. Some people felt the urge to run outside.
As you said, it's a shared experience. We have so few of those now, but this is something most of us felt. I know you're in the minority in the building that you did not really feel
living it vicariously through your videos.
Well, trust me, it was very jarring for about 20, 30 seconds. So, and the videos are pretty interesting. The good news, though, not really any serious damage, just that grist mill that we learned about near the White Horse area.
Right, so we will continue to cover this 4.8 magnitude earthquake felt from our region all the way up into New England throughout the afternoon and into our evening newscast.
Don't forget to join us for 4, 5, and 6. For now, we'll send it to break.